The Last Sleepover, the tragic death of 16-year-old Traylon Sibley. Before anything else, imagine a mother's words echoing in your head. She was supposed to be safe. She was supposed to come home. But instead, I got a phone call no parent should ever get that my daughter had been shot at a sleepover. This is not just a story about a crime. It is a story about trust, about safety, about how, in one horrifying instant, a normal teenage night turned into a tragedy that shocked Kansas City and raised questions the community is still struggling to answer. This is the story of Traylon Sibley. Traylon wasn't just a name in a headline. She was a 16-year-old girl with a future stretched wide open in front of her. Friends described her as outgoing, funny, and endlessly loyal. She loved music, loved spending time with her family, and like so many teens, she lived for moments of bonding, doing hair, laughing late into the night, swapping secrets at sleepovers. She wasn't on the streets. She wasn't breaking rules. She was exactly where every parent hopes their child will be, inside, surrounded by friends, in what was supposed to be a safe home. And that's what makes this story so cruel. Because even in the places we think are safest, danger sometimes finds its way in. To understand what happened to Traylon, you need to understand the world around her. Kansas City has long wrestled with gun violence. In 2024 alone, the city recorded nearly 200 homicides, the majority caused by firearms. Neighborhoods like the one Traylon was in were caught in a cycle of poverty, crime, and underfunded community resources. For many teens, violence isn't a distant threat, it's a part of their environment. But that doesn't mean it should be inevitable. Parents try to shield their kids. They keep them home. They send them to friends' houses. They believe that inside four walls, their children are safe. That belief would be shattered on August 9, 2025. The house where the sleepover took place was small, cramped, and chaotic. That night, at least 3 adults were present. A toddler was wandering between rooms. Teenagers gathered in corners, gossiping and laughing. At the center of it all sat Traylon, carefully parting her friend's hair, twisting strands with focus, humming softly as music played in the background. It was a typical summer night for teens, the kind you never expect to be your last. But the house had shadows. Neighbors whispered about the adults who lived there. There were rumors of guns, drugs, and recklessness. The kind of place where safety was more of an illusion than a reality. And then into this fragile bubble walked a man who should never have been there, 21-year-old Bailey Lewis. Who was Bailey Lewis? To the kids, he was a stranger, too old to belong in a room full of teenagers. He wasn't family. He wasn't a caretaker. He was a grown man in a child's space. Lewis had a history. He'd been on the radar of law enforcement before. He wasn't some unknown figure. He carried with him the weight of bad decisions, reckless choices, and a dangerous lack of control. And most importantly, he had access to a gun. The exact sequence of events that night remains murky. Some accounts suggest he was showing off. Others claim there was an argument. But what we know for certain is this: he pulled the trigger. It happened fast. A single gunshot cracked through the night, so loud that neighbors rushed to their windows. Inside the house, time slowed. The bullet struck Traylon in the throat as she worked on her friend's hair. She gasped. The brush fell from her hand. Blood poured onto the carpet. Screams filled the air. Children scrambled. A toddler wailed. Adults shouted in panic, some frozen, some fleeing. And Traylon, just moments before, laughing, alive, collapsed to the floor. When paramedics arrived, the damage was already done. At 16 years old, Traylon Sibley was gone. News of the shooting spread like wildfire. Kansas City residents were horrified. A teenager killed at a sleepover by a 21-year-old man with a gun? The case didn't just strike at the heart of gun violence. It struck at the heart of parental trust. If a child isn't safe at a sleepover, where are they safe? Candlelight vigils began almost immediately. Balloons were released into the night sky. Friends sobbed as they spoke about their memories of Traylon. Teachers, neighbors, and strangers came forward to comfort the family. And Traylon's mother made a vow: "My daughter's death will not be in vain."
According to her mom, Traylon Sibley was at her friend's house Saturday when dozens of bullets flew through this home, killing her.
I hear that she's 16 years old. That just angered me as a mother.
She's been in touch with Rosalind Temple with Mothers in Charge.
How can you tell another mother that her child, her little girl, has been killed by the hands of someone in a house where they should be safe?
For nearly 3 weeks, the case dragged on without an arrest. The community grew restless. Finally, on August 28, 2025, police arrested Bailey Lewis. He was charged with second-degree murder, multiple counts of accessory to crime. His mugshot hit social media within hours. The public was furious. Why had it taken so long? Why weren't the other adults in the house charged? And how could anyone justify the presence of a loaded gun around children? In her grief, Traylon's mother turned her pain into action. She launched a petition for stronger gun control laws, demanding that lawmakers in Missouri finally confront the epidemic tearing families apart. Her message was clear: we lock our doors. We tell our kids to stay inside. We send them to friends' houses thinking they're safe. But as long as guns can end up in the wrong hands, none of our children are safe. Within days, thousands had signed. Her voice joined the larger national chorus of parents demanding change. Even before the trial, Bailey Lewis faced judgment. Some saw him as a cold-blooded killer. Others painted him as reckless, a man whose stupidity, not malice, cost a young girl her life. But no one disputed the most important fact: he should never have been there. The adults who allowed him into that home. The system that allowed him access to a gun. The failures that let children sit within reach of danger, they all share in the blame. This wasn't just one man's crime. It was a reflection of an entire broken system. When Bailey Lewis faces a judge and jury, the courtroom will become a battlefield. The prosecution will argue that his decisions, bringing a gun into that home, handling it recklessly, pulling the trigger, directly caused the death of a child. The defense will likely argue accident, misfire, lack of intent. They will try to frame it as tragedy, not murder. But for Traylon's family, intent doesn't matter. Because whether deliberate or careless, the result is the same: a 16-year-old girl is dead. The case of Traylon Sibley is more than a local tragedy. It forces us to confront a terrifying truth. If children aren't safe at a sleepover, where are they safe? It raises questions about gun access, about parenting, about the adults who should be protectors, but instead invite danger inside. It shows us how violence seeps into the most ordinary of places, the places where innocence should flourish, not die. At the end of all the headlines and charges and debates, there's still a girl. A 16-year-old who loved to laugh, who loved to braid hair, who had dreams we will never get to see. Her name was Traylon Sibley. She was not just another statistic. She was a daughter, a friend, a teenager who deserved so much more. Her story is a warning. But it is also a reminder that every life lost to senseless violence is more than a number, it's a future stolen. On August 9, 2025, a summer sleepover ended in bloodshed. A teenage girl's life was cut short, not by strangers in the street, but by a man who should never have been there. Her death has become a rallying cry, a demand for change, and a haunting reminder of how fragile safety truly is. This is not just a crime story. It is a human story. The story of Traylon Sibley. If you believe stories like this must be told, subscribe to the channel. Because together we remember the victims and demand justice for the lives cut short.